When it comes to buying a house, it can be very tricky. In the last episode, we talked about the main issues you face selling a house, but there are a lot of issues buying a house. And I'm going to basically go through and explain in this episode the issues I faced in buying my house. There's a number of examples of people going through and buying houses fairly quickly, but the main barrier to entry on buying a house is going to be, number one, the estate agent. If you are lucky enough to get a viewing, you're already ahead of the majority of the population. In the UK, there seems to be this issue where you can see a house on Zoopla, you can see a house on Rightmove, you can show interest on that house by sending a message via the dashboard. Nobody replies to your email. Phone them up. You'll be lucky if they answer between 9 a.m. and 1. That's been my experience so far. If you call them between 2 in the afternoon and 5:30, you might get an answer, or they'll just keep ringing out. So that means the estate agents are either out on viewings or they're extremely busy. So the first challenge is going to be that is your challenge, getting the estate agents to actually get you a viewing. Once the viewing does happen, you can basically have a look around the house and decide if the house is for you. You would already be facing a few issues to get to this stage. It took me 3 weeks just to get a viewing in place, even though the house was vacant. So what was the reason for that? Why did it take so long? You tell me, people, you tell me. So what seems to be happening is you're getting a viewing, you have a look at the house, you like the house. I made an offer straight away, verbally. I did not get a response for 2 weeks. I was chasing during that 2 weeks. I sent an email with the offer on. Didn't get a response. So the main barrier to entry is your estate agents at the moment, unfortunately. In this day and age, you would think it would be easy, but it is not, especially when you're buying. So once you do get over these two hurdles of getting through the estate agent, getting a viewing, getting an offer into the property, then you will be also facing a couple of issues. So when you're buying the house, ideally what you want is, before you start looking at houses, I was suggested to get a conveyancer and a solicitor in place. All that means is you phone a couple of solicitors, say, I'm planning to buy in the next week, months. Can you get me set up on the system, please? They'll send you a couple of letters. You'll explain emails. Normally it's done over email. You'll explain where your money's coming from, the plan, how you're going to buy the house. They ask you for breakdown of your savings, your bank accounts, your statements. They get you verified with ID, passports, just so they know who you are and they can verify you. And once that's been done, you are created on their system. So when you start doing viewings, you can tell the viewing estate agent, I have a conveyancer in place. I'm contract ready, which means I can easily start buying the house because all my legal paperwork is ready and I can start moving fairly quickly. That might speed up your viewings with estate agents because they'll be like, okay, this guy's serious, and you can get a viewing. Once that's all in place, it helps you because you can actually get viewings. You can make sure you're proceedable, and that gets you through that estate agent barrier initially. But not all estate agents are going to reply. It's just like some of them were 100% ridiculous. In the UK, Birchall Edwards just did not get me any viewings at all. So that's just personal experience. That's not to say they may not do well for you, but that's what it was like for me. And going through this process, I then found the house. I made an offer on the house. That took 2 weeks to get back to me. During that time, I was chasing them, no response, emailing, no response. And then I had to call the estate agent and give him an ultimatum saying, I've put an offer in 2 weeks ago. What is the reason you can't call the homeowner and put forward my offer? What is the reason? They didn't tell me. They 20 minutes later called me and said, okay, your offer's been accepted. We've spoke to the homeowner. I don't know why it took them 2 weeks. You saw a couple of builders there. I took a couple of builders with me while I was viewing the house. Because if you get a viewing, you don't want to have multiple viewings. If it took him 2 weeks to get me one viewing, I brought my builders with me to have a look to see if there's any major issues that I missed. There was a couple of issues which I might make a separate issue video about, to say a list of things you should be looking at when buying a house. let me know if you want that. You can reach me on all the socials or on, I'm doing this as a podcast on my podcast just to share my journey of buying a house. And if you want that, I can make that one of the episodes. We are at the moment on episode 8 of this season 15, which is documenting me buying a house. We've done well in business and now we're selling our existing home and I'm buying another house. And that's basically this journey I'm sharing with you. So yeah, the issues you're going to face is going to be estate agents and being proceedable. So getting your solicitor in place would be helpful. And the main issue after that is once you put your offer in, it's been accepted, they will send you a memorandum of sale. What that basically means is it tells you the solicitor's details for the person selling the house, the solicitor's details for the person buying the house, the estate agent, the value of the house is being bought at, and that basically confirms you can start doing your funding and mortgage or whatever you're going to decide to do. Once the memorandum of sale is issued, that went to my solicitor and I said, I'm ready to go. They proceeded to do the searches on the same day. My solicitors, to be fair, have been okay in the sense they could be better, but they're a lot better than all the solicitors I've had communications with, like during the process. Within like a week, within 2 days, they sent my contract, draft contract to the seller of the house saying, okay, here's a draft contract. This is what we're planning to do. We're going to do searches. Once the searches come back, we can have some questions. If that's all okay, we can proceed by X date. That date would have been yesterday, but obviously there's a couple of delays which caused that to be pushed along. So at the moment I'm showing you a couple of videos of like different houses I've seen and just giving you an idea of what the process involves, what you should be looking out for, questions you should be asking will be in another episode. So basing that on this, the solicitors did all of that stuff and my searches came back. There was a couple of issues raised about some strips of land at the back of the house, which you saw in this clip that wasn't part of the documented outline of the house. So on my response to the solicitors of the sellers, I went back and said, can you either give me a letter saying you've had this land at the back of your house, you've been using it without any issues for the duration of your period here, which was about 18 years I lived there. If that's all okay, then perfect. If not, then you need to go to the land registry and register the land because I don't want to have issues when I buy the house or I need to sell the house, etc. It took them 3 weeks to respond. The solicitors representing the seller were very slow, very disorganized, and I was chasing them. The estate agent, I asked the estate agent to chase them. I asked my solicitor to chase them, and finally they did a similar thing. 3 weeks later, we basically put it down. I said, listen, if you can't respond, I'm going to be buying another house and you can explain to the seller why you made them lose the house because you took 3 weeks to reply to a simple query. They didn't even acknowledge it. If they emailed and said, okay, thank you for this, we'll take a month to answer you, okay, that's fine. But they didn't have the common decency to even say, okay, we're going to look at it. They just left it like unread as if they've not seen it. And lo and behold, the same day, within a couple of hours, they responded and said, okay, we spoke to the homeowner and we're going to follow with further documentation. So I'm still waiting. So the delays have been by the seller's solicitor. Very disappointing. Very disappointing. But be ready for these types of delays. So far, we're 3 months deep into this shizzle. I was going to say another word there, but shizzle. And I envision it taking about 4 or 5 months, potentially longer, depending on what they end up doing. So even though you've made an offer and it's been accepted, until you exchange contracts, it's not 100% yours. So just be mindful of that. And everybody involved in the process just seems to delay things. So what would happen now is if they come back to me and give me a draft letter, my own solicitor even said the draft letter they need to write doesn't take long. And my solicitor offered to do it for them, saying, you know what, we'll do the draft solicitor letter for that land of that possession of the back, the extra strip of land, just to speed things along. We're waiting for them to reply again now. So that's been a bit of an issue. I have to sell a property to get into this, so that's going to be an issue. And the main issues you're going to face buying a house is, like I mentioned, the solicitors, the communication, the estate agents, and any spanner in the works. Like, for example, in my example, that strip of land caused a little bit of issue, and that needed to be rectified to be able to proceed. So what that means basically is just keep your mind open to all of these possibilities. In this house, the roof was really bad condition. I already discussed that with the seller of the house. So when I made the initial offer, I then went back and said, you know what? No, I've had a word with a couple of builders. It costs X amount to do the roof. I need you to lower the price. So they offered to lower the price, which made it a little bit more better to swallow the pill of buying a house which needs a lot of work. So in this example, there are still elements where things can change all the way up till you exchange contracts. So be mindful of that. Think about it. And these are a couple of extra issues that you will face when you're buying a house in the UK. Stamp duty can be an issue, as well as when you buy the house. Because if you're buying the house and stamp duty is going to be a problem, you want to consider that and see what works out for you. So I'm thanking you for joining me in this episode. In the next one, I'm going to be speaking about, hopefully, me getting the house and getting the keys, and then going through and showing you a real video. In the podcast, I'm going to talk through all the points, everything I discussed in more detail, because I feel like at the moment the house isn't really mine yet. I haven't completed the purchase and we're still in that phase where anything can happen. And that's the mindset that you're put into with this current system in the UK, where these things can be very sped up if just a bit of organization took place. So I'll see you on the next episode, where we'll dive a little bit deeper into the house purchasing process, and you can see what ends up happening. Do I make it? You are here with me, joining me on the journey. So I'm very pleased to have you here. It would be really good if you can leave a review wherever you're listening to this. The show resources are available at zulftalks.com. You can also sign up to the mailing list there, which will allow you to get information to help you on your journey working for yourself.